past few months, DBD has released some pretty interesting modifiers. Some that people have been asking for years, and others that no one would have ever even thought about. And today we're going to be looking in depth at each modifier, ranking them based on how people received each modifier, what they liked about them, and what they didn't like about them. Let's dive in. The first modifier to be released this year was back in February, which was the Lights Out modifier. Basically, the Lights Out modifier was all maps were a little bit darker than usual, and killers were able to be a lot more stealthier. There were no terror radiuses, no bloodstains, but killers also couldn't see gens. The premise of the Lights Out mode was to give a little darker aura feeling and to make things more scarier. Unfortunately, a lot of people complained that killers mostly use the Lights Out mode to kind of camp hooks and not really use it to have a scary atmosphere, which did let people down. In my opinion, the modifier could have been a little bit more handled better. And with killers also playing the way that they did, it did make it a little bit lackluster overall. But for the potential that the modifier did give in general, I'm going to give this third place. The next modifier to have come out on the list was My Little Oni. An April Fool's joke, you may ask? No, it was actually real. My Little Oni came out on April 1st, hinted as an April Fool's joke by the DBD devs, but in fact was a real life game mode. While the modifier was only limited to being Oni, you were able to play all the survivors. And the premise was, all the survivors were small, and there was really no true way to fight back besides pallet stuns for Oni. Oni was huge, and you were tiny. While the game mode did seem very repetitive, and the games did last at a max maybe 5 minutes, the game mode was really fun for the very limited time it was, considering it was about 2 to 3 days out. Feedback I heard overall from the community, no one really seemed to have a negative thought about My Little Oni, and it seemed to be like a little fun modifier, especially being a joke at first. Just because it was a really short time modifier, even though everyone had nothing but positive things to say about it, I'm going to place it as number 4. Had it been out a little bit longer, I probably would have placed it a little bit higher. The third modifier to come out for the year was Chaos Shuffle, which released on May 16th. The premise of Chaos Shuffle was very straightforward. You loaded to a game, and you didn't have the authority to choose your perks. You get 4 random selected perks, and you didn't know what they was until you actually loaded into the game. Now, the release of Chaos Shuffle was actually really monumentous, considering the fact that the era that it came out was during the 4 gen regression perks. This was the meta for killers at the time. Survivors were overwhelmed and very tired of seeing the 4 same gen regression perks, which kind of made them easily gravitate towards the Chaos Shuffle modifier. Do I think Chaos Shuffle would have survived if there wasn't a 4 gen regression meta for killers at the time? I definitely think it would have. But because of the 4 gen regression perk meta at the time, I definitely do think that amplified people to play Chaos Shuffle more, just so survivors and even killers could see different perks from both sides and have different game experiences for every single match. Because of the longevity I can see that Chaos Shuffle can have, and even believe it can be a permanent game mode within a Dead by Daylight game, I'm going to place this at number 2. And the very last modifier that graced everyone's eyes was the 2v8 modifier, which released on July 25th. Even before this modifier was released to the game, the hype for it was overwhelming, considering this was one of the very game modes that longevity DBD players were asking for years. The premise of 2v8 is exactly what it sounds like. 2 killers versus 8 survivors. Kill the survivors or get the gens done. Whichever side you're on, you kind of knew your basis and what you needed to do. Based off feedback and game data collected from the devs, a whopping 40% people played the 2v8 modifier more than regular games in general, which caused them to actually extend the current modifier up until August 15th. Surprisingly, with this being the most asked for game mode from longtime DBD players, the positivity and negativity feedbacks were kind of in the middle between each other, which actually shocked me. A lot of the negative feedback circled around the short variety of killers that you were available to play as well as really long killer loading times. Survivors got games really quickly, but the killers kind of struggled in getting games. There's also been feedback that the game mode can actually be overwhelming for some people. But on the positive side, a lot of people have stated that it definitely gives a more fast-paced gameplay experience, and some people actually live for the chaotic thrill that the mode brings. Now, even though this game mode had the most balanced feedback between a balanced positive and negative aspect, for the simple fact that this was a game mode that many DBD players have asked for and waited for such a long time, and even knowing that it potentially will come back with some tweaks and updates based off the information we gave the devs and feedback that we've given them, I'm going to put 2v8 at number 1. Also, I am a little biased. I think this was my favorite modifier of all. I even did a poll on Twitter to see other people's feedbacks, and I was honestly not shocked by the results. In the comments below, tell me what your favorite modifier was and what you liked about it. Please make sure to leave a like and comment on the video and subscribe to the channel to turn on post notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.